Welcome to Renewing Hope, an exploration of how to overcome the daily challenges that keep us from living a life of meaning and purpose. Each week, innovative healthcare leader Mike Vasquez explores the science and solutions to finding true satisfaction in life. He'll discuss how modern thinking confirms what the Catholic Church has been saying for 2,000 years. We all have a natural desire for happiness and satisfaction in pursuit of being the person we want to be. Now, here's your host, Mike Vasquez.
Welcome, I'm Mike Vasquez, and this is Renewing Hope. 1 in 3 Americans will either deal directly with substance or alcohol abuse or have a family member or friend deal with it in their lifetime. It's a staggering statistic. Estimates are that an addicted person draws 5 other people, friends, family members, into their struggles they search for hope. Today we're going to discuss with a panel of experts the importance of physical stabilization and medical detoxification prior to attempting drug or alcohol treatment, and how sometimes the fear of detoxification may be a barrier to asking for help. You may never have thought of this, don't even know what it is. And it's really an important issue as we talk about trying to get somebody help during the holidays. What is a physical stabilization or a medical detoxification? It's typically that transitional period your body goes through when you stop taking drugs or drinking. Your bodies become dependent on the substance to function, so when the substance is no longer present, you have a physical and a psychological response, typically presented as withdrawal symptoms. They'll include nausea, joint pain, sometimes seizures, anxiety, depression, mood swings, and the list goes on. And what happens is the fear of this detoxification process may lead to delay in entering a treatment program and potentially impact successful recovery. It's an issue missed by most people struggling with addiction and their families. However, when addressed, can provide a pathway to hope, 100% hope, that tomorrow can be better than today. We're in the Advent season, and you may be attending or hosting a family gathering, as I said earlier, with the national average of 1 in 3 people in America struggling directly or indirectly with substance abuse. You may be faced with the need to help a loved one or a friend. What do you need to know? Today we're going to discuss the medical stabilization and detoxification process, a process many times overlooked as you face the challenge of just trying to get a loved one help. We're fortunate to have an expert panel here today in the Renewing Hope studio. Here to discuss the topic with me is Dr. Charles Wadley. He's a board-certified addiction physician who has medically detoxified thousands of addicted people and alcoholics off of every prescription and illicit drug available. Dr. Wadley, thanks for joining us.
Hey, it's great to be here again on another voyage from vice to virtues.
And Clayton Walters, director of St. Gregory Retreat Centers, who's worked with large national drug and alcohol treatments for over 20 years, caring for people struggling with addiction, has seen firsthand the fears and the barriers people face as they enter and start their treatment journey. Clayton, thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here.
And also joining us today, Joe Meintz. He's facilitated more than 250 interventions across the country and is currently director of admissions at St. Gregory Retreat Center. He and his staff have also talked to thousands of families each year about the challenges of getting a loved one help. But more importantly, during those 250 interventions, Joe's seen firsthand the fear and the barrier of that withdrawal symptom and detoxification need as these people go through that decision process with their family of trying to reach out and get help. Maybe we can just start off with a definition of what is withdrawal and what are some of the things these people deal with, both from an alcohol aspect, prescription drug aspect, and illicit drug aspect. What are some of the differences and what are withdrawal symptoms and what is withdrawal?
Well, withdrawal is basically the rebound, if you will. It's the opposite of what the drug or the alcohol does. And when you take it away abruptly, you get the polar opposite of that. I think most people who have imbibed in alcohol, and some of us perhaps excessively, have all had experience with withdrawal. We call it a hangover, where you wake up in the middle of the night and you're sweaty and you can't sleep and you feel bad and you have a headache and your gut's churning. I mean, that is a sample of withdrawal from alcohol. Analogous types of things would happen with benzodiazepines or, the Valiums, Libriums, Ativans of the world, has a similar withdrawal to alcohol. As do hypnotic agents such as a common one out there, Ambien, Zolpidem, which we see abused quite a bit. If you get into things like opioids and those types of things, the withdrawal phenomena, again, occurs, maybe a little bit different, but there's a lot of overlap, a lot of GI problems, agitation, restlessness, sweatiness, etc. In other substances, we're even finding now in the literature is coming out with marijuana withdrawal, which we kind of poo-pooed in the past, but they're acknowledging that that exists. Most any medication, prescription, even used appropriately, if you stop it abruptly, can have a withdrawal phenomenon. Whether or not it's a substance of abuse or not, but they can still have withdrawal problems.
So you could actually have withdrawal symptoms from things like food. I would guess anything you crave, you could actually end up having a withdrawal symptom. So sugar and other foods like that?
Well, and it's interesting you mentioned that, because what happens in part with alcohol is it floods your system with a lot of sugar, and you stop it abruptly and you get hypoglycemic. And, not unlike binging and purging or binging, and you could have the similar situation.
It's kind of interesting, Joe, as you were out there doing interventions, did you see withdrawal symptoms as a big barrier for people wanting to get help? Because I think that's one of the big challenges. A family's finally agreed to address this issue. The loved one's starting to think about it, but it seems to me like there's a fear, and this fear of withdrawal could actually be one of those issues.
Absolutely. It was always surprising to me how often someone, especially someone abusing an opioid like a heroin, a lot of times when I was doing interventions, that was one of the most common drugs that I was really working with, was heroin and then alcohol. But almost always when someone's abusing that drug, that's the number one thing that they're terrified of, is what's it going to look like when I run out of money, or when the market dries up and I'm not able to get my drug. And they refer to it as being dope sick, because as soon as they run out of that drug and it goes on long enough, they're terrified of what that feeling is going to be like, because it is a really miserable feeling. Now the difficulty with it was, for a long time, nobody paid much attention to how do you alleviate some of those symptoms. And that's one of the things that's kind of exciting now, is we're finding there's a lot that can be done to make that a much smoother process that frankly wasn't really available not all that long ago. So detox and that withdrawal issue is a really big deal when you're talking to a family, when you're talking to somebody who's going through the addiction process. It certainly has a big impact on what does that look like going forward.
And I don't think people realize that actually, because painkillers are synthetic heroin, you actually have withdrawal from your painkillers, and that's really what happens in between your doses. Today we're discussing withdrawal and detoxification. When we come back, we'll talk about how you can overcome this barrier in getting a loved one help. I'm Mike Vasquez, and you're listening to Renewing Hope on Ave Maria Radio.